The dog did not bark. He never did when something was wrong. He stood frozen in the dirt yard, ribs lifting fast beneath his coat, eyes locked on the fence like it was breathing back at him. One paw hovered off the ground, trembling, unsure whether to run or stay. The afternoon was quiet in that way that makes your skin tighten. The cicadas had stopped. The wind had dropped. Even the shadows seemed to hold their breath. Then came the sound. Not a cry exactly. More like a thin breaking thread of pain pulled too tight. It came from the fence line where rusted wire bowed inward and weeds clawed at the posts. The dog's ears pinned back. He turned and looked at the man behind him, not pleading, not frantic, just urgent, as if time had already begun to slip away. Beyond the fence, a mother cat was caught, her body twisted unnaturally, fur snagged in metal teeth. Below her, coiled in the dust, a snake lay waiting, patient and still, its tongue tasting the air. The cat's kittens were hidden somewhere nearby, unseen but felt like a weight on the chest. The dog took one step forward, then another, and finally did the only thing he could do. He begged. The dog had learned the language of danger long before anyone taught him words. It lived in the way his spine stiffened before the sound arrived, and how his breath shortened when the air itself felt wrong. That afternoon the yard was too quiet. No birds argued in the trees. No insects buzzed in the weeds. Even the sun seemed paused, hanging low and heavy, like it was waiting to witness something it wouldn't interrupt. He stood near the fence, nose lifted, catching a scent that didn't belong, dry dust mixed with old metal, sharp and cold beneath the heat. His tail didn't wag. It lowered, slow and deliberate, as if his body already knew this moment demanded gravity. Then he heard it. A sound so thin it barely survived the air. Not loud enough to be called a cry. Not strong enough to be called a fight. Just pain leaking out where it could. The dog turned his head, eyes locking on the fence line. Rusted wire bent inward there, tangled with weeds and torn plastic, a place humans avoided because it looked dead. He took a step closer. The smell intensified. Fear. Blood. Something ancient and coiled beneath the dirt. His ears flattened, not in submission but in focus. Instinct sharpened him into stillness. Through the wire he saw her. A cat, suspended halfway off the ground, body twisted where the fence had bitten into her fur and skin. She barely moved. Each breath was work. Below her, half hidden by shadow and dust, lay the snake, still, patient, certain. The dog's chest tightened. This wasn't a moment for noise. Noise startled. Noise wasted time. He backed away once, glancing toward the house. The man was there, distracted, unaware, hands busy with something small and unimportant. The dog tried sound then. Not a bark, but a low, urgent whine pulled from deep inside him. It failed. The man didn't look up. The dog returned to the fence, heart hammering now. The cat's eyes found him. They were wide, not begging, just aware. Awareness was enough. He placed himself between her and the snake, paws digging into dirt, body angled like a living wall. The snake shifted slightly, offended by the challenge, but didn't strike. The dog didn't move. His muscles burned, but he held. Time stretched thin. The sun slid lower. The cat's breathing grew weaker. Somewhere nearby, small sounds rose from the grass. Kittens, unseen but alive, their need vibrating through the ground. The dog's jaw clenched. He turned and ran. This time he didn't hesitate. He sprinted toward the man, stopping so suddenly dust sprayed around his legs. He jumped once, not playfully, but sharply, then ran back a few steps and turned, eyes locked. Come, now. When the man still didn't move, the dog pressed his head into the man's thigh, hard enough to demand attention. Finally, the man looked down. The snake recoiled, angered. The dog surged forward half a step, teeth flashing, a silent promise of violence if needed. The snake froze again, balance restored barely. Time lost its shape. There was only tension and breath in the dog's unwavering focus. He did not think of himself as brave. He did not think of himself at all. He thought only of holding this fragile space open long enough for something good to happen. And in that narrow space, between wire and fang, between fear and action, the dog became more than a witness. He became the reason the story could continue. The dog felt the moment before it happened, the way he always did. A tightening in the air. A shift too subtle for eyes but loud to the body. The snake gathered itself, not in haste but in irritation, and the ground seemed to lean toward violence. The dog stepped forward without sound, muscles snapping into readiness, placing himself fully between the danger and everything fragile behind him. His teeth showed, not as a threat but as a fact. The man froze. The cat cried out again, weaker now, her strength leaking away in small invisible drops. The wire had cut deeper with every breath she took. The dog could smell it clearly now. Blood, hot and metallic, mixed with fear so sharp it almost burned his nose. He did not recoil. He breathed it in, grounding himself in it. This is why I'm here. The snake struck the dust in front of him, not at him, fast and sudden. The sound cracked like dry wood snapping. The dog didn't move. He didn't chase. He didn't bark. He simply lowered his head and leaned forward, eyes locked, body unyielding. The message was simple and final. Not today. Something in the snake's ancient logic shifted. This obstacle was not prey. This obstacle was risk. It coiled back just slightly, reassessing. The dog held his position, heart hammering so hard it shook his ribs. He could feel the tremor run through his legs now, the cost of standing still for so long. He accepted it without question. Behind him, the man found his courage in pieces. The dog sensed it the way he sensed storms, first the pressure, then the decision. Hands reached for the wire again, slower this time, more deliberate. Metal protested. The fence bent another fraction. The cat screamed, a sound so raw it made the dog's ears flatten. He turned his head just enough to let her see him. I'm still here. The kitten's cries rose again, closer now. They were moving, crawling through grass, drawn by her voice, by need. The dog felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest, urgency layered with something else, protectiveness without ownership. He had guarded food. He had guarded territory. This was different. This was guarding a future that wasn't his. The snake shifted again, more agitated now, its patience thinning. The dog advanced one slow step, then another, forcing it back inch by inch. He did not rush. Rushing made mistakes. His paws pressed into the earth, every movement intentional. The snake retreated just enough to keep its distance, coiling closer to the weeds, to shadow. The man worked faster now, breath ragged, hands bleeding. The dog smelled it but didn't look back. Humans leaked when they tried hard things. That was normal. The fence groaned again, louder this time, and then something gave, not fully, not cleanly, but enough. The wire loosened its bite. The cat sagged, her body sliding lower. The dog reacted instantly, moving sideways, placing his shoulder beneath her without touching her with teeth or claws. He became support. Weight pressed into him, warm, fragile, alive. He braced, legs shaking violently now, but he held. The snake lunged once more, desperate. The dog snapped then, fast and precise, teeth closing on empty air inches from the threat. It was enough. The snake recoiled fully this time, sliding back into the weeds, its anger unresolved but defeated. The dog did not chase. Chasing would break the fragile balance holding everything together. The man pulled the cat free at last. Wire released her with a final screech, and suddenly she was no longer trapped between pain and death. She collapsed into the dirt, chest heaving. The dog stepped back only when he was sure the snake was gone, retreating to the shadows where it belonged. He stood over the cat now, not touching, just watching. His body shook uncontrollably, the aftershock of restraint flooding through him. He lowered himself to the ground beside her, close enough that she could feel his warmth. The kittens emerged then, small and trembling, pressing into her side. The dog let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The danger had passed, but he stayed. Because some instincts don't end when the threat leaves. They end when everyone is safe enough to breathe. The dog lay there longer than necessary, chest still rising too fast, legs humming with a deep electric ache. The world had not returned to normal yet. It never did all at once. Safety arrived slowly, like warmth creeping back into frozen ground. He kept his head lifted, eyes tracking the fence line, the weeds, the places where danger liked to pretend it had left but hadn't. The man knelt nearby, hands shaking as he tore cloth to wrap his bleeding fingers. He kept glancing at the dog, then at the cat, as if unsure which miracle to acknowledge first. The dog didn't look back. Praise could wait. Gratitude could wait. Attention drifted. Instinct stayed. The mother cat pulled her kittens closer with what little strength she had left. They pressed into her belly, blind and trusting, their tiny bodies shivering. The dog watched their movement with careful stillness. New life was loud in ways humans didn't always hear. He heard it clearly. It hummed, fragile and stubborn, like a promise the world might still try to break. The air shifted again, not with danger this time, but with release. Birds resumed their arguing in the trees. Insects dared to buzz. The sun dipped lower, cooling the heat on his back. The dog's breathing slowed, finally matching the rhythm of the yard. Only then did he allow himself to feel how tired he was. He rose carefully, testing each leg. Pain flared, sharp and immediate, then dulled into something manageable. He shook once, a full-body tremor that sent dust and tension flying off him in equal measure. The man flinched at the sudden movement. The dog paused, glanced at him, then returned his gaze to the fence. Still standing, still a threat, even if empty now. The man spoke softly, voice thick. "A good boy," he said, though the words sounded too small for what had happened. The dog's tail moved once, slow and low. He accepted the sound, not the meaning. Meaning was something he carried inside, where words couldn't reach. He approached the cat then, cautiously, lowering his head so his size wouldn't frighten her. She hissed weakly, more out of habit than fear. He stopped immediately, respecting the boundary. His nose caught her scent again. Blood, pain, and underneath it all, fierce devotion. He understood that smell. He had worn it himself once, long ago. The kitten shifted, one tumbling clumsily over another. A tiny sound escaped them, thin but determined. The dog's ears flicked forward. He took one careful step back, giving space. Protecting didn't always mean closeness. Sometimes it meant knowing when to disappear. The man gathered tools, straightening the bent wire as best he could, his movements slow and reverent now, as if the fence had become something sacred through its near cruelty. The dog watched him work, cataloging the motions, the sounds. Normal was returning. That mattered. That mattered. When the man finally stood, he rested a hand on the dog's head. This time, the dog leaned into it just slightly. The touch grounded him, reminded him of weight and warmth and the simple truth that he was not alone in this world, even when responsibility fell squarely on his shoulders. As the light faded, the man carried a box out and placed it near the fence, lining it with old cloth. The dog understood immediately. Shelter. The cat watched warily as the man gently coaxed her and her kittens inside. The dog stood close, a quiet sentinel, until the box was closed enough to keep the night out but open enough for air. Only then did he step away. He walked back to his spot in the yard and lay down, facing the fence, ears still half raised. Sleep tugged at him heavy and deserved, but he resisted it for a while longer. Heroes, if such things existed, did not abandon their post too quickly. When sleep finally came, it came softly, and even in rest, the dog listened. Night settled in layers. First the light drained from the sky, then the sounds thinned, and finally the yard took on that deep, listening quiet where every rustle feels important. The dog slept lightly, half dreaming, half guarding. His body rested, but his awareness stayed awake, stretched thin across the fence line and the small wooden box tucked beside it. Every few minutes he lifted his head, testing the dark with his ears and nose, making sure nothing had changed. The cat's breathing reached him faintly, uneven but steady enough to ease the tight place in his chest. The kittens made small, blind noises, the kind that came and went like ripples. Life continuing. That mattered more than comfort. At some point, pain caught up with him. It crept in quietly, settling into his legs and shoulders, reminding him of every second he had held still, every muscle he had locked in place. He shifted, repositioning himself with care, choosing the angle that hurt least, but still gave him a clear view. The fence stood crooked in the moonlight, a thin line between what had almost happened and what didn't. He remembered other fences, other days when instinct had pulled him toward trouble before anyone else noticed. He only knew that when something fragile was close to breaking, his body moved before his thoughts did. A sound cut through the night, soft, deliberate footsteps. The dog's head snapped up, ears forward, body rising in one smooth motion. The man emerged from the house wrapped in a jacket, moving slowly so as not to startle anyone. He stopped when he saw the dog already awake. "You're still watching," the man murmured. The dog didn't respond. He didn't need to. Watching was not an action that required acknowledgement. It simply was. The man crouched by the box, checking on the cat and her kittens. He worked gently, clumsy in the careful way humans were when they understood the weight of what they touched. The dog observed from a distance, ready to step in if fear turned sharp again. It didn't. The cat stayed still, eyes half open, tracking the man with exhaustion rather than anger. When the man stood, he didn't go back inside right away. He crossed the yard and sat down near the dog, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. They shared the silence without filling it. Above them, stars burned cold and indifferent. The dog stared at them for a moment, then returned his attention to the fence. Indifference was not his job. Morning arrived slowly. The first light crept over the ground, pale and unsure. The dog rose before the man did, stretching carefully, shaking out stiffness. He walked the perimeter, nose to earth, reading the night like a story written in scent. No snake, no new danger, only dew, insects, and a lingering trace of fear fading into something safer. When the sun finally cleared the horizon, warmth spread across his back. The yard looked ordinary again. Too ordinary, considering what had almost been taken from it. The dog understood that this was how the world worked. It broke quietly and healed the same way. The cat ate later that morning, slowly, painfully, but she ate. The kittens pressed against her, full and alive. The dog watched from a respectful distance, tail resting on the ground, eyes soft but alert. He did not seek closeness. Survival didn't require thanks. As the day moved on, the fence was repaired, stronger than before. The box was replaced with something sturdier. Humans talked about luck, about timing, about how close it had been. The dog lay in the shade, eyes half closed, listening without caring for the words. He knew the truth. Nothing had been accidental. He had been there because he needed to be. He had stood because standing mattered. And when the moment passed, he remained quiet, watchful, unchanged. That night, as the yard settled once more, the dog curled into sleep with the fence in his sight and the sound of breathing. Many small breaths, one tired mother, one grateful human, anchoring him to the world.